Gaming Bolt presents 15 toughest bosses in the entire Ninja Gaiden series. The Ninja Gaiden series has always been known for its absurd difficulty. Enemies that would be fodder in most games turn into either epic fights in Ninja Gaiden or nightmarish annoyances. The boss fights can be better or worse depending on your perspective, so we consolidated our collective trauma and ranked the 15 toughest bosses in the entire series. Broken controllers not included. Vigor Emperor First Form Ninja Gaiden Sigma. The Vigor Emperor is, unsurprisingly, one of the easier bosses you'll fight in Ninja Gaiden Sigma. That's despite being the second to last boss, mind you. Even with Ryu stuck on a floating platform and having to use block to ascend or descend, you need only dodge the Emperor's lasers and attack up close when there's an opening. Pretty simple overall, though dodging the lasers can prove annoying at times. Regent of the Mask Ninja Gaiden 3. Ninja Gaiden 3 was criticized at launch for having a relatively easy difficulty, but the Regent of the Mask is where things begin to heat up. You'll encounter him several times in the game, and in a later fight, the Regent can block your counters. It becomes a game of running at him, slicing accordingly, and avoiding his grabs. If you don't know this at the outset, things can become quite irritating as the Regent grabs you over and over again. Final boss, Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos, NES. The old NES days, especially the Ninja Gaiden series, really drove home the importance of memorizing boss patterns. Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos' final boss involves knowing the patterns and avoiding his attacks, taking out his head and then hands to attack the core. It sounds simple, but comes down to the correct timing. Tomahawk Helicopter, Ninja Gaiden Sigma. And now we get to the cheap bosses. Absurd as it may be that Ryu can take down a helicopter in Ninja Gaiden Sigma, it was necessary to best this particular flying boss. Land all of your shots and the fight could be easy, but even then, the helicopter would start weaving around, firing at you with guns and missiles. Higher difficulties meant a swift death, but it was still pretty straightforward if you aimed properly. Zedonius, Ninja Gaiden 2. Zedonius can be highly cheap. He flies, stomps the ground causing fire to erupt, can throw fireballs at you when he's not firing huge blasts, and even brings some fiends to aid him. For all of the fire he spews though, you simply need to dodge his enormous chest laser and hit him with the scythe or true dragon sword. Once again, as simple as it sounds, more than enough practice is required. Water Dragon, Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. Did you think Zedonius was a huge headache? The Water Dragon is even worse, but it's the Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 version, that too at launch, which tormented players. Thanks to the combat engine being modified, many of Water Dragon's attacks just couldn't be avoided. It also didn't help that the Water Dragon could turn invisible and appear from anywhere while firing homing icicles and water blasts. Alma, Ninja Gaiden Black. Considered the gold standard for horribly difficult boss fights, Alma from Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black is the first greater fiend that Ryu fights. Everything about this fight will annoy you, whether it's her ability to throw pillars to those annoying fireballs. Furthermore, she's flying most of the time, which makes attacking her even tougher. Spamming the flying swallow attack will pretty much finish her, so once you know that, Alma should be manageable enough. Probably. Awakened Alma, Ninja Gaiden Black. Of course, then Alma has to go and awaken. Awakened Alma won't be able to attract you towards her, but can still grab Ryu with her tail and smash him for massive damage. Fireballs, pillars, singular large fireballs, and the flying swallow technique sometimes not doing anything makes this fight tougher than her first form, if you can believe that. The fact that it depends on how often you can hit Awakened Alma out of the sky with flying swallow doesn't help. Murai, First Fight, Ninja Gaiden. Like Doku, Murai is seemingly impossible to beat. Unlike Doku though, you have to beat Murai. The first fight is tough since he can dash attack, grab Ryu, and beat him down, block attacks, and combo you mercilessly. Even worse, at Master Ninja difficulty, he has elite ninjas that will throw exploding shurikens at Ryu. It's worth noting that you have little to no upgrades at this point, so it really all comes down to skill. That and maybe a little luck. Two tanks, Ninja Gaiden Sigma. The helicopter fight was annoying, but this might as well make you quit. Not only can the tanks shoot you into oblivion, but their behavior is fairly hard to predict. They can also run you over, which is heaps of fun when trying to line up a shot. The only really good news is that you have to fight one tank at a time, though it would probably drain your soul to see the second tank show up after a harrowing battle with the first. Ghost Doku, Ninja Gaiden. Doku's final form, that of a spirit, is a nuisance because he can inflict massive amounts of damage and drain your health. So don't count on a few elixirs being your savior after making a few too many mistakes. It also doesn't help that he's accompanied by spirit fish that are best killed with nunchucks, which are terrible against Doku, of course. Doku, first form, Ninja Gaiden Sigma. Now, to be fair, this boss fight is supposed to be unwinnable. You're not supposed to beat Doku's first form. Since this happens in the beginning of the game, you have a measly dragon sword and are pretty weak in terms of health. That being said, even with this difficulty, it is possible to still emerge victorious. It's just that it doesn't matter because the accompanying cutscene will just assume that you lost. Hilariously enough, winning unlocks the very hard difficulty, so much for beating this game. Nietzsche and Ishtaros, Ninja Gaiden Sigma. What's worse than having an unwinnable boss fight where you're still fairly weak? An unwinnable boss fight that actually happens much later in the game, where you have better weapons and Rachel to help you out. Once again, Nietzsche and Ishtaro can be beat with enough skill, and since this is Ninja Gaiden, that means you need a lot of skill, but the next cutscene will just assume that you lost. Gigadeath, Ninja Gaiden 2. You could argue that many of the bosses in Ninja Gaiden series are beatable with enough practice and memorization. Ninja Gaiden 2's Gigadeath is just horrible though. His attacks are random and he could just decide to throw a bunch of fish at you, which are very tough to dodge under normal circumstances. Don't even get us started on Master Ninja difficulty. Jakio, Ninja Gaiden 1 NES. Perhaps the benefit of time will allow us to look back on Jakio, the final boss of Ninja Gaiden on the NES, with maybe a little bit more fondness. However, when you consider that older games are much tougher than the new ones, losing to Jakio has you going back 3 levels, which is just torturous given the other enemies you had to fight to reach him. Dodging his fireballs is pretty much next to impossible, but the worst part was the risk you had of running into him, thanks to the odd hitbox. This would result in 3 times your health being depleted compared to being hit by a fireball. Good luck nailing those air slashes without hurling your controller across the room. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.